Police investigate the death of a suspect in custody. 5 policemen appear for mention in relation to armed robbery. And opposition queries government on LNG money.
This is National EMTV News with Lorraine Genia.
Good evening, great to have your company for Tuesday's news. Police in Port Moresby are investigating the death of a suspect after he was found dead in a holding cell. Details of the cause of death is still sketchy as police continue to investigate. EMTV News was at the Gordons Police Station when the body of the deceased was removed earlier today.
The body of the deceased was still inside its holding cell when EMTV News arrived at the Gordons Police Station this morning. Police told EMTV News the deceased was arrested on Sunday and taken to the Gordons Police Station for attempted murder. He was detained in a separate cell due to his mental condition. However, this morning, police found the person dead and naked in his cell. Forensic and detectives were called in to assess the body before being taken to the morgue at the Port Moresby General Hospital. Forensic officers say the cause of death is still unknown and further assessment of the body will be carried out since the deceased has brutal scars, wounds and scratches on his skin. The deceased is from Goilela and in his late 20s. For now, senior police officers say the investigation will either prove whether it was the deceased's mental condition, circumstances of the cell block or the brutal attack which may have led to his death. The victim of the deceased is also admitted at the Port Moresby General Hospital and is recovering from the vicious attack. Jack Lapave Jr., National EMTV News.
The 5 policemen in Port Moresby who were alleged of robbing a car dealer, Too Fast Motors, appeared at the Waigani Committal Court today for mention. They were charged on 2 counts of armed robbery, 5 counts of deprivation of liberty, 2 counts of extortion and 2 counts of kidnapping each, totaling up to 11 counts. They allegedly held up 2 Chinese nationals on the 13th of March, robbed them of 10 cartons of imported cigarettes worth over 16,000 kina and 1,500 kina in cash. The court has given 1 month for police investigators to gather evidence on the matter and return to court on the 29th of April. Their lawyer filed a bail application this afternoon at the National Court. The Waigani Committal Court has adjourned former Lands and Physical Planning Secretary Romilly Kilapat's application to dismiss a case against him. He was suspended by NEC and is facing courts in relation to misappropriation and conspiracy charges. Eric Harupma with this report.
Senior Magistrate Cosmas Bidar adjourned suspended Land Secretary Romilly Kilapat's application to dismiss the case. It was alleged that on the 3rd of September 2015, Mr. Kilapat had misappropriated a sum of over 200,000 kina public funds from the Department of Lands and Physical Planning. The court added that on 14th of September 2015, Kilapat conspired with 2 senior officers named from the department in facilitating the withdrawal of this money from the department's Land Reform Program Trust account. The money was later paid as workshop bills to Bola Motors. Mr. Kilapat was arrested and charged under Section 16(2) of the Public Finance Management Act for 1 count of conspiracy and misappropriation. Senior Magistrate Cosmas Bidar, after cross-examining the affidavits presented by the police prosecutor and Kilapat's defense counsel, adjourned the case to April 19. Eric Arupma, National EMTV News.
Police in Ley have caught an escapee identified as Brendan Kinjic, who was attempting to hold up vehicles along the back road area on Good Friday. Kinjic was armed with a homemade gun loaded with several 9mm bullets. Ley Metropolitan Commander Anthony Wagambi says the prisoner was shot in the buttock. The suspect was previously charged for armed robbery and was remanded when he escaped. He has been wanted by police for a string of robberies and other crimes along the back area since his escape from prison. Another relief supplies delivery has been made by the Madang Provincial Disaster Office to volcano-displaced Manam Islanders at all 3 care centres. Providing relief supplies one after another has proven to be a very costly exercise And the Madang provincial government is adamant the idea of having people resettled on new land as soon as possible is the way forward. Rachel Shise in Madang reports.
Another load of relief supplies to the 3 Manam care centers were made as of last week, with the remaining to be completed today. The Madang Provincial Disaster Office delivered a total of 671 bales containing 20 packets of 1 kilogram Trukai roots rice with flour and oil yet to be delivered.
Especially all pikini ola mamas, all rejoice ola mamas because all looking kai kam long house do blong long ke center na ola mamas. But me pla one leader me plus kelim good or me. After this is I'm back him 1 week or.
The internally displaced islanders' reactions mostly is that they do not understand why the government is not making sure their problem gets addressed permanently.
Prisoners here, or law breakers here, okay, 3 times to one per day. Now just because national disaster na mi pla kam loke center, work lo national government, provincial government lo mi pla.
According to the provincial administrator, Daniel Aloy, in a recent interview, the monies used to provide relief supplies are from the PSIP funds.
The monies that we're using are really and that we will be using to pay for the disaster are really PSIP monies. Okay, and that's the money on record that we are using for the management of the care centers.
Now, the PSIP funds are not enough to continuously provide for the islanders for as long as they live at the care centers. Providing one-off relief supplies year after year for 12 years now has proven to be very costly. With that, the provincial administrator believes that permanent resettlement as soon as possible for the islanders is the way forward.
We can point fingers and say many things that we want to say, but I, as a provincial administrator, I have made it very clear to them, Manam Islanders, on 2 or 3 occasions that the intention was to move the Manam Islanders from the care centers.
Rachel Shise, National EMTV News, Madang.
Taro experts at the National Agriculture Research Institute in Leh have been working with communities in Morobe and other parts of the country to revive taro planting. Some of the communities abandoned the crop many years ago due to the increase in pests and diseases. However, an ongoing program that began in the 1990s has been collecting taro plants from all over Asia and the Pacific to create plants that can survive.
Not many people know this, but the National Agriculture Research Institute is a custodian of more than 800 varieties of taro sourced from various parts of the country and from Asia and the Pacific. These are perhaps the most important taro plants in the agriculture science community in Papua New Guinea and the Pacific because these are parent material used to generate new plants.
Erosion of genetic loss is mainly due to pests and diseases, and in lowlands is one of the biggest challenges that we are faced with is the taro beetle.
To really appreciate the importance of these plants, you have to understand that over the last 30 years, many communities that used to plant taro have stopped because of pests and disease brought on by climate change. Because taro is a culturally important crop, the loss of the taro in communities means that harvest cycles and cultural ceremonies are also affected.
We have so far released 4 varieties that are resistant to tolerant to taro leaf blight, and also to breed for those type of diseases we need to have a lot of varieties, and we are introducing varieties from abroad.
The taro leaf blight is one of the main problems faced by farmers. But through breeding programs that began in 1993, NARI has been able to introduce varieties that can withstand pests and disease.
Some places that used to be cultivating taro before are now not cultivating taro, and they shift in cultivation. They are now shifting into sweet potato with other crops rather than cultivating taro.
But all this is still work in progress. Even if a Taro variety is pest and disease resistant, farmers will prioritize taste above all its other qualities, and it's a challenge that NARI is also dealing with in its trials. Scott Waide, National EMTV News, Ley.
Patients seeking treatment at the Angao Hospital are raising concerns of verbal abuse by security guards stationed at the hospital's main gate. Wagina Wilson, a patient who goes to Angao for her regular medical supplies, said she was stopped at the main gate where the guards demanded to know what was in her bilum. Wagina says the security guard forcefully pulled her bilum and began checking its contents. When she resisted, she was abused. Angao administration said guards have been instructed to check bilums to make sure patients are not carrying betel nut, cigarettes or weapons into the hospital premises. However, the hospital administration said they don't agree with the actions of the security guards. A disagreement between graduating students and the administration at the University of Natural Resources and Environment is emerging. With only one day left before the university's 19th graduation ceremony, the students are demanding that their degree and diploma certificates must be signed by a permanent vice-chancellor and not an acting vice-chancellor. This comes after the vice-chancellor's post was occupied by Dr. Samson Laup, who has been acting on the position since last year. Edwin Fidelis reports.
The administrative issue between students and the university's administration is far from over. The tussle that has dragged on since last year has been revived again last week by the graduating students. In a student letter written to the office of the Vice-Chancellor over the Easter weekend, have stated that they want the 700 kina graduation fees to be reduced, and they want a permanent Vice-Chancellor to sign their diplomas and degree papers.
With the students, with the grade ones, we want to say that in order for this graduation to progress, we want the gown fee to be reduced down to 300 kina, which all the other students in other tertiary institutions are paying.
In a meeting last night between the graduating students and the administration, they have agreed to reduce the graduation fees from 700 kina to 255 kina. But they have not agreed to the appointment of a permanent vice-chancellor.
We don't want someone acting in the vice-chancellor's office to sign our papers. We want a substantive vice-chancellor to be in the office who will sign our papers. And that's all we want to see prior to 31st March, end of this month.
The students are demanding a permanent vice-chancellor to sign their papers on grounds that the signature of someone who is acting in a position may lower the academic weight of the degree or diploma papers, as well as lowering the academic standard of the university and making their papers worthless. EMTV couldn't get a comment from the acting vice-chancellor, Dr. Samson Laup, in time for this broadcast, but the university's registrar, Mr. Masi Fuawe, who have handled the matter, revealed in a statement that any person who is in the position of the vice-chancellor, whether substantive or acting as the mandate of the university's council, and any documents signed during the term in office, including agreement and certificates, binds the university. This is not the first time the students have been involved in a debate with the university's administration. Last year, the students protested and demanded the removal of the university's bursa, which forced the suspension of classes for at least 2 weeks. The students haven't made known their next course of action on this issue, but it's understood the prolong of this disagreement may affect the graduation ceremony this Thursday. Edwin Fidelis, National EMTV News, Kokopo.
Meanwhile, the UNRE's administration has agreed to reduce the graduation fee of 700 kina to 255 kina per graduating student. The university's registrar, Mr. Masi Fuawe, said today they have agreed that students will pay only 255 kina instead of 700 kina as imposed earlier. The previous amount angered the students, who then threatened to boycott the ceremony on Thursday. Mr. Fuawe said the 700 kina imposed earlier by various departments was aimed at covering the cost of gown hire and for students to access the campus facilities during the graduation week. Among stories after the break, the opposition queries the government on proceeds from the LNG project. Stay tuned. Welcome back to Tuesday's news. During question time in Parliament today, the opposition was again after the government on money-related matters. This time, the opposition leader, Don Pollier, asked the Prime Minister what the revenue coming in from PNG's liquefied natural gas exports were. The Prime Minister urged the opposition leader to ask questions based on evidence instead of creating speculation.
To 13 billion in the come inside.
The opposition leader was referring to the government's 2016 budget books, which spell out how much PNG should be earning annually from its LNG export. Mr. Pollier asked the Prime Minister where this revenue was.
Money belong LNG go where? The public ground no gives money. All public provincial government no money na cut yet. Money go where? Na isla cut them come up.
Prime Minister O'Neill was adamant for the country to be aware that the LNG project does not solely belong to PNG.
Public must be very aware. There's like 4.2 billion or some sales you total sales lo LNG go out. There's like LNG project you know blow you meet us all. We have a stake, smallest stake is 19.2. With the landowners and the benefits coming out. Mr. Speaker, the biggest shareholders are our development partners. When we contributed equity, and he knows it very well, Mr. Speaker, when we contributed equity, the entire partners put 30%. 70% you mean borrowing plenty or lenders the world. Over 20 different banks around the world to borrow 19 billion kina plus to build this project up. 19 billion US, Mr. Speaker. The time you may borrow him this kind of money, I'm no free money. You must make him deny go back.
Mr. Pollier also asked the Prime Minister why the projected annual revenue from the LNG sales was not included anywhere in the budget books. He asked the Prime Minister if there were hidden interests in this regard.
This la money belong on people along 1 year, 3 billion kina kamin sa long PNG LNG. Why na government you put them going along, but along so him clear. One of this la work where money make him. One of hide. One of government hide him the money.
An exasperated Prime Minister leveled with the opposition leader, urging him to stick to facts and avoid creating speculation.
For his record and this honorable house, I have no business whatsoever with LNG project at all. Not one single. So suppose you got one legal evidence or something, you throw my totok law where it got meaning law. No can throw my totok nothing. You know one legal mangi. You lead a block country.
Deli Waigeno, National, EMTV News.
In other news from Parliament, Western Province Governor Ati Wabiro suggested to the Forest Minister to give developers licenses to landowners. He said when it came to gas and oil, talks of ownership was high, while ownership of forest was unheard of. Forestry Minister Douglas Tomoriesa responded, criticising the media for what he claims is misleading information on ownership of forests.
Wabiro says that Western Province has an abundance of virgin rainforest and logging has been taking place. He asked if developers' licensing of the logging to be given only to landowners who can choose developers.
Development licenses are given to the landowners rather than to developers. The landowners can then invite potential developers to then apply, and the landowners will decide whom to select.
Minister for Forestry Douglas Tomoriesa responded, criticizing the media and members of Parliament who post on social media for misleading information on ownership and licensing of logging companies.
Key issues that we took upon ourselves and the management is to make certain that we see most of the logging licenses, operations, are returned to the landowners. And that's why it bothers me a lot when I read through the media and Facebook and we leaders, some of us leaders who are seated here, talk about illegal operations in the country and continue to talk about licenses that are held in the hands of foreigners.
He then added that 94% of licenses have been removed from foreign owners and given back to landowner companies. He says that from over 100 foreign-owned logging companies, 67 have been cut down.
About 94% of licenses, operational licenses now, have been taken away from foreigners and given back to landowners.
Tumuresa also said the Ministry of Forestry has been tracking logging in PNG and has taken stock of all operations. He added the task of taking stock was huge and applauded the O'Neill Dion government on the launching of the National Inventory Planning for Forestry 2 weeks ago.
The National Inventory Plan for Forest, first of its kind in 40 years for Papua New Guinea. For the first time, you would know what trees are growing out here in our forests in Papua New Guinea.
Stanley Ove Jr., National EMTV News.
Acting Governor General Theo Zurino today received the new ambassador of the Republic of Cuba. When presenting his letters of credence at the Government House, Ambassador Jose Manuel Montano said Cuba is ready to work harder and contribute more towards the relationship between both countries. Ambassador Montano said he was open to initiatives on collaboration in the areas of education, health, new medicines and many other areas. Mr. Zurino acknowledged Cuba's efforts in providing medical aid to the Pacific. Ley City witnessed a peaceful Easter celebration with no major crimes committed. Metropolitan Commander Anthony Wagambi said police were on full operations during the Easter weekend. This includes the police special operations teams comprising of CS members for the recapture of escapees.
We can ensure that our residents here will celebrate Easter peacefully. Even though there was no liquor ban on throughout the weekend, only on Good Friday. I commend the residents of Ley for behaving themselves and generally behaving themselves and conducting themselves in a peaceful manner in general.
And now looking at our finance news, the Kina opened unchanged at $0.3235 US in the interbank market. At Bank South Pacific, your Kina was buying $0.3160 US, $0.4159 Australian dollars, $0.2792 euro and 35.60 Japanese yen. Looking at commodity prices at New York close, coffee, cocoa and copper closed higher, while gold closed the day lower. Palm oil closed unchanged, while crude oil and copper closed the day lower. And on the stock market, the Dow Jones closed at 19.66 points higher, the ASX closed at 82.41 points lower, and the All Ordinaries closed at 78.02 points lower. National EMTV News continues with news from abroad, including the latest on the Brussels bombing. Stay with us. Welcome back to the news. The Federated States of Micronesia will host the 47th Pacific Islands Forum Leaders Meetings this year. The Forum Leaders Meetings will be held in Pohnpei from the 7th to the 11th of September. In line with the Forum Leaders' recent decision to hold annually Foreign Ministers meetings from 2016 following the Forum Officials Committee meeting, the first regular meeting of the Forum Foreign Ministers will be held on the 12th of August this year. The death toll in the Brussels bombings has risen to 35. Meanwhile, authorities are still hunting for the key suspects.
The manhunt continues for the third unidentified bomber at the Brussels airport and a second man believed to have been involved in the metro attack. They're among at least 8 suspects authorities are still searching for throughout Europe in connection to last Tuesday's blasts. Police have carried out raids every day since the attacks and are rounding up what they allege are members of a wider terrorism cell. 3 men were charged in Belgium on Monday, accused of participating in the activities of a terrorist group. In Germany, 2 men arrested. And in Italy, Algerian man Jamal Eddin Ouali was taken into custody, accused of providing fake residency documents for Najim Lachraoui, one of the Brussels airport killers, suspected of making the bombs used in both the Brussels and Paris attacks. At the same time, raids and arrests in connection to a foiled Paris plot. That plan began to unravel on Thursday when French authorities, after weeks of investigation, arrested Reda Criquet, an associate of Abdelhamid Abaoud, the suspected ringleader of the November Paris attacks, who was later killed in a shootout with French police. Explosives and Kalashnikov rifles found in Criquet's apartment. So too, information which led police to another 2 men who were swooped up in Brussels, and a French national arrested in the Netherlands on Sunday. The French government has praised police and intelligence services for thwarting yet another attack, but warns the fight is far from over.
We know other networks are still out there. Although we can say the terrorist cell who committed the Paris and Brussels attack is being wiped out, we are still threatened.
As security forces work to further dismantle that threat across Europe, the death toll from the Brussels attack continues to rise.
In the U.S., the country's capital was on lockdown for much of the day. A man was shot after pulling what appeared to be a gun at the visitors' center. Authorities say it appears to be an isolated incident with no reason to suspect terrorism as a motive.
A chaotic scene in the heart of Washington as visitors to the U.S. Capitol run for shelter.
We heard, get out, there's an active shooter, and so we all ran out, went around the side of the building. Police escorted us up the building. It's the most stressful experience I've ever had in my life.
The incident sparked by a lone gunman who set off the metal detector as he entered the Capitol Visitor Center. Tourists and Capitol staffers were ordered to shelter in place.
I saw everybody acting a little nuts, and then I saw policemen coming through and officers coming out in a row that was just like sprinting down, and they're going, move it, get out of the way. And then I figured something's going on.
A female bystander was wounded by shrapnel.
An adult male subject entered the north screening facility of the Capitol Visitor Center. During routine administrative screening, the individual drew what appeared to be a weapon and pointed it at officers. An officer fired and struck the suspect, who was subsequently treated by medical personnel. The suspect was taken into custody and transported to the hospital for treatment.
Capitol Police say the suspect acted alone and was known to authorities as a frequent Capitol grounds visitor. This comes as tourists from around the country have flocked to D.C. during the popular spring season.
With the updates, they gave us, updates, and they were very congenial to us, very hospitable, and made us feel safe.
This vehicle behind me, this Dodge Ram pickup truck with Tennessee plates, has been confirmed by police to be owned by the suspect. According to 2 law enforcement sources who spoke to CNN, he is identified as Larry Russell Dawson. And according to court documents, he disrupted the House of Representatives chamber in October 2015, loudly stating to Congress that he was a prophet from God. He is identified in those documents as a 66-year-old man from Tennessee.
To the U.S. elections, U.S. Republican frontrunner Donald Trump is a grandfather for the 8th time. His daughter Ivanka gave birth to a boy.
Donald Trump was a hands-on grandpa.
Ivanka, we have a hospital ready just in case.
Even before there was a baby to put his hands on.
Right.
Well, here he is. Meet Theodore James, born in New York City.
Congratulations.
Thank you. That's very exciting.
How did it happen? What time?
How did it happen?
Or, I know how it happened. Yeah, don't answer that.
Trump had told a mostly Jewish audience.
My daughter Ivanka is about to have a beautiful Jewish baby.
Ivanka converted to Judaism before marrying Jared Kushner, and the baby was born
on Easter, so we have an Easter baby, which is beautiful.
Donald Trump kissing babies
when they're his own.
Hi, sweetheart.
Donald now has 8 grandchildren. ABC's 2020 caught the Donald's warm and fuzzy side when the kids stormed his office. Ivanka's 4-year-old told her this.
My daughter sees a large pothole in the middle of a New York City street, and she looks at me and she goes, Mom, Grandpa would not like that.
The Donald once read Winners Aren't Losers to one of his granddaughters. Jimmy Kimmel supplied the book.
Winners do deals and winners get rich, while sad little losers just sit there and
Coochie coo, baby Theodore, we wanted you to have this video scrapbook so that someday you could look back and see how, even though you were still in the womb, you were already part of the 2016 presidential campaign.
Ivanka gonna have a baby like tonight. In fact, it could be happening right now. It could be any second. It could even be before I'm finished.
When the baby's name, Theodore, was announced, some made an instant connection to Ted Cruz. Someone even had the nerve to replace the baby's head with Ted's.
Lion Ted, Lion Ted. What's your name?
Call him Crying Ted. The only lying this baby's doing is in a crib.
Trukai Sports is up next with news on PNG's tennis champion Abigail Tere Apisa. Stay tuned.
Trukai Sports.
Welcome to Trukai Sports. PNG tennis champion Abigail Tere Apisa has been selected in the Pacific Oceania team that will compete in next month's Fed Cup tennis tie in Thailand. The team finished 5th of 11 teams in the Asia-Oceania Group 2 division in India last year.
Fed Cup is the premier international team competition in women's tennis, launched in 1963 to celebrate the 50th anniversary of the International Tennis Federation. The tournament is the world's largest annual women's international team sports competition in terms of the number of nations that compete. This year, the team aims to get promoted by the end of the tournament from Group 2 to Group 1. Abigail is ranked in the top 950 in the world and was part of last year's Pacific Oceania team that finished 5th out of 11 countries in their group. Samoa Steffi Karutas was part of last year's team and will play once again alongside Abigail and newcomers Ayana Rengil from Palau and Tahiti's Meika Zima. The other teams vying with Pacific Oceania for promotion are Bahrain, Indonesia, Iran, Hong Kong, Malaysia, Pakistan, Philippines, Singapore and Sri Lanka. Elijah Levet, National EMTV Sports.
Port Moresby Mera has been crowned the champions of the 2016 National Softball Championships. Port Moresby Mera defeated its brother team Port Moresby Kakais with a final score of 9-6. Fabian Hakalis with this report.
The 2016 National Softball Championship host, Port Moresby Meros, snatched the men's champion title in a close encounter against Port Moresby Kakais yesterday. The Kakais opened the batting box with the first K2. A good hit from second batter Bernard to Albert brought him to the second base. Misfielding following on from Kakai's pitcher Kolis Pagal brought to Albert home, registering the first run in the first inning. Kakai's strong defense and good pitcher-catcher combination kept Meros scoreless. Despite slippery conditions, JC4 Darius Carroll was safe on second base. Then JC5 Joel Joseph brought him home, registering another run in the second inning. It was a double down from a fair hit by Kakai's captain Eugene Tovue and tagged out on home base. Meros from the conference first batter at bottom 2 saw Tony Karani sent back to the dugout after a strike foul catch. And a misfielding by outfielders. At top 3, the score was leveled at 2-all. However, with a good comeback in the fourth inning, Maros maintained the lead with a final score of 9-6. Fabian Hakelitz, National EMTV Sports.
And in football, Map Centres yesterday won the MyRob's Easter Cup Challenge after defeating rival Pascal's 3-0 during the grand final match at the LFA grounds in Ley. The first half of the match saw exchanges from both teams, but 13 minutes before halftime, Francis John of Map Centres overpowered Pascal's defence to put in the first goal.
Map Centres dominated the first half, causing rival Pascal Silas Akoi to get the yellow card before heading into halftime. Map Centres went into halftime leading 1-0. 2 minutes into the second half, Map Centres scored their second goal through Joshua Panget to bring his home side to a 2-point lead. Straight after the second goal, they struck again, a penalty shot by Map Centres number 6. But quick hands from Pascal's goalkeeper denied them another goal. Pascal's attempts to break through Map Centres' goal line defense were unsuccessful. Centres Ezron Dairus put in their third in the 70th minute, just seconds before the final whistle. Mata Luis, National EMTV Sports, Ley.
And Trukai Sports continues after the break. Stay with us.
Trukai Sports.
Welcome back to Trukai Sports. Following the successful Easter camp in the nation's capital, Netball PNG has identified new talent to join the Pepes for the upcoming Nations Cup in Singapore in September. Head coach of the PNG Pepes, Unaisi Rokora, said the girls will join the senior Pepes extended squad. They will also try to fit them in a few trial matches leading into the Nations Cup.
We got a September, which is the Nations Cup. We're heading to Singapore for that. They've moved it forward to September. And before that, we're hoping to, after these 4 days, we have identify a few of the players that will be joining the National Pepes extended squad. So that's really positive for us. And of course, apart from the September trip, we are hoping to throw in some training matches in between leading up to Singapore.
In round 5 of Super Rugby over the Easter weekend, the Hurricanes were pushed to work for a 42-20 bonus point win over South African Conference debutants, the Southern Kings. The Hurricanes made a strong start in the match, leading by 3 tries before allowing the Kings to get back into the match. While in the Australian Conference, the New South Wales and Queensland derby saw the Reds put on display a better performance against the Tars, losing by 2 points, 15-13 at full time.
Important here to see if Greg Holmes can get the tight head side up.
It was tight, it was tense, and it was fiery at times. In a battle of the scrums in the Waratahs 22 after winning a series of scrum penalties, the Queensland Reds opened the scoreboard with a 7-0 lead just 12 minutes into the first half.
It is a try to the Queensland Reds. The pressure just kept coming.
But a terrific break by number 8 Jed Holloway at the 50-metre mark gave enough space for the Tars to use Israel Folau's pace on the wing. And just after the halftime siren, Folau again narrows the gap with another try in the corner, leaving the score at 2-1 a little after the 40th minute.
After the halftime siren. Charged down by McIntyre, keeps it on the top.
Second half saw the Reds firing back with McIntyre putting pressure on halfback Nick Phipps, but a messy clean-up by the Waratahs saved them from a possible defeat from the Queensland Reds.
Browning is claiming a try in jersey 20 as well. It's all happening at Suncorp Stadium.
No try.
20 minutes into the second half and sloppy control by the Reds forward pack saw an easy penalty awarded to the New South Wales franchise, and by the 70th minute, the score remained at 15-13.
Over, sneaking through the left hand.
6 consecutive wins over the Queensland Reds has left captain Rob Simmons admitting to the team's lack of discipline in the forwards. The Tars win also means they remain in contest for the top spot in the Australian Conference, but will have to prove themselves yet again next week against the Rebels at home in Sydney. And that's all for Trukai Sports. The weather details when we come back.
Trukai Sports.
Taking a look at the weather forecast for tonight and tomorrow in the southern region, occasional showers for Port Moresby, Kerma, Alatown, Popondetta and fine in Daru. In the Momase region, showers and patchy rain for Lae City and showers for Madang, Wewak and Vanimore. In the New Guinea Islands region, rain for Lorengau, Kokopo and Rabaul, rain with occasional thunderstorms for Kavieng, showers for Kimbe, and showers or rain with occasional thunderstorms in Buka. And in the Highlands region, all centres, showers and drizzles with fog. Now looking at the forecast for small ships for the next 24 hours, waters of southern PNG, Indonesian border through Torres Strait, and Taro to Kiwai Island, to Kerma to Yule Island, to Hood Point to Samurai Island with waters of eastern and western Milne Bay Islands, and with waters of Finchafen through Vitia Strait to Long Island, including CRC Islands and Dampier Strait, seas of 0.5 to 1.5 metres. And finally, the ocean forecast for PNG areas in the Coral Sea sees moderate with southeast winds at 10 to 20 knots. In the Solomon Sea sees moderate with southeast winds at 15 to 20 knots. In the Bismarck Sea sees moderate with northwest winds at 15 to 20 knots with gusts. And in the Pacific Ocean sees moderate to rather rough with northwest winds at 15 to 25 knots. Now recapping our main stories for tonight. Police investigate the death of a suspect in custody. 5 policemen appear for mention in relation to armed robbery. And opposition queries government on LNG money. And that's the news, sports and weather for tonight, Tuesday, the 29th of March, 2016. On behalf of the entire news team, I'm Lorraine Genia. Pleasant viewing. Good night.